In your announcement about the meeting on Monday, you talk about the SABC not being the kind of public broadcaster that Right2Know would like to see. And so I'm curious then, it's clear the things that you don't like about what the SABC is doing currently and what's happening under Hlaudi Motsoeneng's leadership. But what do you think is the role of the national broadcaster, and how would you like the national broadcaster to run its news as Right2Know?
The SABC was a state broadcaster under apartheid. In the 1990s, it was transformed, during the transition in a radical way. It was very meaningfully transformed through a transparent, open, and accountable process. And its mandate, it has a fairly clear mandate, which is to inform the public, to uphold freedom of expression. I mean, there are various aspects to this, but simply, I mean, what we would expect from a good public broadcaster is, a broadcaster that is able to hold power to account, that informs the public, that delivers good, hard-hitting, critical journalism and public interest programming. And that's not what we're getting from the broadcaster. We're getting a broadcaster that's a state mouthpiece that cans shows like mine is shut down because they're embarrassing to this political elite, that cans critical, hard-hitting current affairs shows like The Big Debate, like The Editors, refuses to play documentaries like Project Spear, hard-hitting stuff that we expect from a good public broadcaster.
I just wanted to throw in one thing before you go, and that's a question about a tweet I saw yesterday from one of your detractors who said Right2Know was nowhere when ENCA employees were having disputes with management over editorial policy, and yet they're all over the SABC like a bad rash. What's your response to that?
We've heard this criticism a few times, that we're very hard on the state and the ruling party, but we tend to let other big media corporations off the hook, that privatize commercial mainstream media. It's simply not true. We've given a very hard time to the mainstream media. We've given Media 24, we've given you guys a fairly hard time at times. We've demanded the breakup. We've demanded the breakup of media monopolies. We have a very progressive view of media transformation. It's not just anti-state, it's not just anti-ruling party. Unfortunately, it's very hard to keep a tab on every single development that's happening in the media landscape in South Africa. It's very fraught terrain. A lot is happening at a very fast pace, and sometimes we have to be a bit selective in our battles. We have to prioritize. The SABC is the most important media machine in the country. It's going through huge, far-reaching transformations. It's going through a very turbulent period. There's a massive public interest issue here and concern among the public about what Hlaudi Motsoeneng and his cabal are doing to the SABC. And the public need to reclaim the SABC and a sense of ownership of it and hold it accountable. That's the whole idea of a public broadcaster and the need to pay TV license. So, yes, sometimes things slip through the crack, but with the SABC, we could not ignore it. It is simply too big of an issue. It's been going on for too long, and we cannot afford to see this crucial media institution sink any further. We are riding. We're being pushed from below. We're being pushed by our constituencies. We are riding a very popular wave of discontent now.
And just to be clear then, just one, just sort of important point, it's not about from what I hear you saying, there's no question that in terms of local production or kind of pushing local content, which is the argument that Motsoeneng gave on Tuesday as well, is that's not really an issue. The issue is the news content and the journalism.
Look, we have reservations about the way Hlaudi Motsoeneng implements decisions. This 90% local content is very problematic, even though we've been calling for much more local content on the airwaves, more support for local artists and so on. But the issue here really is about censorship at a very, very sensitive time in South African, in the political life of South Africa as local elections approach. So it's not just about Hlaudi as well. Of course, this is about broader issues of state capture, of the sort of structural forces at play. The rot began long before Hlaudi Motsoeneng, of course. But I mean, the big issue of the day right now, I think the burning issue is censorship and purges and propaganda at the SABC.